Can we turn Daniel Jones into a franchise quarterback? Well, I'm going to find that out today in a 5-year rebuild with the New York Giants. There are a few key pieces here on offense like Saquon Barkley, Kadarius Toney, who is an 80 overall, Sterling Shepard is actually injured right now with this roster, and we have Evan Neal at right tackle, who is a hidden depth trait. But right now on the defensive side of the ball, obviously there are a few more weaknesses. Like at left end, we have a 69 overall. At middle linebacker, there's a 70 and a 69 overall. Not great back there. A 77 overall safety isn't exactly perfect. A 74 overall number 2 corner. Adoree Jackson's pretty solid here as an 83 overall star depth trait. I don't know if he could be a number 1 corner, but he could be a solid number 2 this season, but obviously he has to be our number 1. And for playbooks and scheme right now, I did not change the scheme at all. All I did was change the playbook. They are already a vertical zone run. And then for the defensive scheme, I actually kept it the exact same. I don't know how well they do in simulation, but they are a 92% scheme fit, so I figured I should go ahead and keep that. I am going to sign a couple veterans to 1-year contracts before we get into the season. The first one being Chris Harris Jr. And I'm also going to bring in middle linebacker Jamie Collins because our middle linebackers were not exactly great, and he comes in with a 78 overall and is a scheme fit. And the next one I'm going to bring in is right end Ndamukong Suh. I think it was the left end that was pretty bad, but we'll bring Suh in on a 1-year contract to play the other defensive end spot as a 79 overall scheme fit. And then the last player I'm going to bring in is tight end Eric Ebron as a 73 overall scheme fit because our starting tight end I think was a 68 overall. I don't know how much those free agent signings are actually going to help this team, but it does give Daniel Jones one more target to throw to, and then over on defense we get some much needed help. But now let's simulate season 1 and see if Brian Daboll can get Daniel Jones back on the right track. Alright, at the end of season 1, we finished 10-7 and make the playoffs, and we come in with the number 2 offense in points per game and the number 16 defense. What kind of offense were we running? Daniel Jones throws for almost 4,900 yards, 36 touchdowns, and 12 interceptions. I would definitely say he's now on the right track. On the ground, Saquon Barkley ran for 1,200 yards and 15 touchdowns. And receiving, Kadarius Toney, 81 catches, 1,000 yards, and 4 touchdowns. But Richie James Jr. caught 11 touchdown passes. Kenny Golladay, 77 catches for 955 yards and 5 touchdowns. And Eric Ebron, the new tight end we just brought in, caught 8. Jamie Collins actually led the team in tackles with 113. Doesn't really surprise me. A lot of the times the middle linebacker will lead the team. And tackles for loss, it is Kayvon Thibodeaux with 19. And in sacks, Kayvon Thibodeaux with 14.5. One hell of a rookie year. What about interceptions? That goes to Julian Love, who got 6. I think he was the 77 overall safety, so he had a pretty solid year. And it looks like we get into the playoffs as a 6th seed, so we will get to take on the Arizona Cardinals, so let's see how far we can go in this. Well, we get bounced by the Arizona Cardinals in the wildcard round 35-21, but honestly, I didn't even expect to make the playoffs in our first season of this rebuild, so I feel like we did pretty good. Daniel Jones throws for 235 and a score. We just couldn't stop Kyler Murray, who apparently threw 4 touchdowns. And something tells me this will not be the real Super Bowl this year. The Carolina Panthers take down the Jaguars 37-31 to get their franchise's first Super Bowl win, but Kayvon Thibodeaux does win Defensive Rookie of the Year. And we have a couple things here to go over. Daniel Jones is now a star depth trait. He was a normal before the season started. Evan Neal is now a superstar depth trait. Kadarius Toney still a star. Eric Ebron still a star depth trait. What about over on defense? Kayvon Thibodeaux is now a superstar depth trait, and I don't think anyone else changed. Actually, Julian Love went from a normal to a star depth trait. And it doesn't really shock me here, but Ndamukong Suh and Chris Harris have both retired after this season, so we will need to replace both of those players. And before we get into re-signing players here, we have $88.5 million in cap and 25 players ready to negotiate their contracts, so let's see exactly who is staying and who is going. I am never a huge fan of paying running backs. I personally hate it in real life. I don't think teams should do it. But Saquon Barkley is a 92 overall star depth trait. I don't think he's wanting an absurd amount of money, so we will offer this contract to him. And he is glad that we got the deal done, so we get to keep Saquon Barkley. We are also going to try to bring back strong safety Julian Love. He just led the team in interceptions with 6, a 4-year contract, and he is glad that we got the deal done as well, so we get to keep him. And due to the nature of this video trying to be a Daniel Jones rebuild, I'm going to offer him a 4-year contract, and Daniel Jones will be excited to sign such a great offer and stay with the team. So we get to keep our quarterback that is the main point of this video. And I signed a couple other smaller contracts, but here's everyone that is leaving. The main guy being Sterling Shepard. He is 81 overall, but he is 30 years old. He doesn't have much interest in coming back. Darius Slayton, also 26 years old, 77 overall. We may try to bring him back in for agency, but I want to see what's available there before I really commit a bunch of money to anybody. Richie James is also leaving. Tony Jefferson, because he's a 31-year-old safety. Jamie Collins, I know, just led the team in tackles, but he's 33 years old. Let's see if we can upgrade that. And then here's everyone else that is leaving, mostly just a bunch of backups, honestly. Alright, and I've now burned through most of our cap space here by offering 4 contracts, and they are all to decent names here. Jadeveon Clowney, who doesn't have much interest, so we kind of had to overpay him. Calvin Ridley, who was the best receiver available, not named Odell Beckham, but Odell is getting a ton of money. I tried to get him, but the Jets and the Patriots are throwing a lot at him. And then TJ Edwards is coming to be our new starting middle linebacker, and Desmond King to play on the other side of Adoree Jackson. So let's see if any of these guys take this offer. And it looks like Desmond King is not signed, but Jadeveon Clowney is now a Giant along with Calvin Ridley and TJ Edwards. And I had to bump the offer up for Desmond King a little bit, but let's see if he is going to take this contract now. And it looks like no, he is not. We were like the team willing to pay him the most, but he has not signed with us. Let's go see where he signed. You can see Odell signed with the Patriots there. It looks like Desmond King has decided to sign with the Lions, so we may not have a great secondary this next year. And after all of that, we are now at the NFL draft here where the Lions have the number 1 pick. We don't pick until pick 23. Let's do the Lions take with the number 1 pick. They're going to take quarterback Steven Jefferson out of Oregon State. And now I will jump to our pick. And with our first round pick here in this draft, I'm going to take middle linebacker Lamar Hood out of Missouri. He comes in with B block shedding, but he is the fastest middle linebacker in his class. B block shedding, B zone coverage, B hit power. I think he's going to be a really solid player for us, and Lamar Hood will have a hidden depth trait and 91 speed. And here in the second round, I'm going to take left guard Mitchell Buckner out of Missouri. He comes in with C pass block and B run block, B to D awareness and A to C impact block, but he is the strongest guard, or left guard at least, in the class, or one of them. And Mitchell Buckner will also come in with a hidden depth trait. And then here in the third round, I'm going to take defensive back Johnny Borden out of Wisconsin. He has C man coverage, A to C press, and B to D zone, but he was the 3rd fastest corner in this class, so we're drafting basically based off speed this entire time. And Borden will also come in with a hidden depth trait and 92 speed. And now we are here after the draft, and if you've never watched any of my rebuilds before, the way I do things is that I pick the first 3 rounds of the draft, and then I just let the computer pick the rest of it, so that is why we are already done with it. And I don't think we did horrible. Lamar Hood is a 73 overall with a hidden depth trait. Mitchell Buckner is a 72 overall with a hidden depth trait. Johnny Borden is a 69 overall corner, but he did have a hidden depth trait. He just may take a little bit of time to develop. It looks like the CPU took a 68 overall running back, a 65 overall quarterback, a 64 overall left tackle, and a 63 overall defensive tackle. And here's the offense going into season 2 of this rebuild, and it looks like the quarterback that the CPU drafted in the late rounds, I think it was round 5, is a hidden depth trait. He will not start over Daniel Jones though. He is now a star depth trait, and we're going to try to get him to a superstar by the end of this season. And then here is the starting defense. Everyone in the starting front 7 is a scheme fit here. No one in the secondary is, which might be a problem, but we will try to deal with that after this season if it comes back to bite us. In season 1, we ended 10-7 and got in as a 6th seed while finishing 3rd in the division. Can we get any better during season 2? And at the end of season 2, we are back in the playoffs, but this time we go 9-8. We finished 3rd in the division again, but we still managed to make the playoffs. That's fine with me, I guess. We have the 8th offense in points per game and the 24th defense in points per game and the 27th pass defense. Okay, so we may need to change out that secondary a little bit. And Daniel Jones comes in with 5,400 yards, almost 5,500, 35 touchdowns, and 14 interceptions. On the ground, Saquon Barkley ran for 1,100 yards and 14 touchdowns, and receiving. New receiver Calvin Ridley, 116 receptions, 1,600 yards, and 10 touchdowns. Kadarius Toney got 9, Kenny Golladay got 7, Eric Ebron got 3, Wan'Dale Robinson got 3, and then what happened on defense? Let's go check that out. Lamar Hood, the rookie middle linebacker I took in the first round, led the team in tackles with 129. TJ Edwards right behind him with 127. Tackles for loss goes to Dexter Lawrence with 21, and sacks goes to Jadeveon Clowney with 14. Kayvon Thibodeau got 14, I believe, last year, only gets 9 this year, but Dexter Lawrence also comes in with 9.5. What about interceptions? Lamar Hood got 3, Adoree Jackson got 3, Darnay Holmes got 3. Okay, so a middle linebacker was one of our leaders in interceptions, which is a good thing, but also means we probably need to rebuild the secondary a little bit. And this time we get in as a 7 seed, so we get to play the 2 seed Dallas Cowboys in the first round. And we take them down 38-35. What exactly happened? Daniel Jones throws for 295 and 2 touchdowns, and Dak Prescott throws for a touchdown and a pick, so Daniel Jones gets his first career playoff win. And now we get to take on the 1 seed Green Bay Packers. This game should be interesting. We do, however, have an injury going into this game. Kadarius Toney will not be playing the next 2 games. If we manage to get by Green Bay, we also won't have him in the conference championship. And I don't think Kadarius Toney would have mattered too much in this game. We get bounced 42-17, and Aaron Rodgers throws 4 touchdowns. Daniel Jones still throws for 315 and 2 scores. He played pretty well. And if we're going to lose, at least we lost to the eventual Super Bowl champions, as Green Bay wins 42-35 over Cincinnati. And for the second year in a row, we have the Defensive Rookie of the Year. Kayvon Thibodeau got it last season, and now Lamar Hood has got it. And it looks like Daniel Jones has remained a star depth trait, but now Calvin Ridley is a superstar. Kadarius Toney is still a star depth trait. Eric Ebron is still a star depth trait. It looks like Buckner was unveiled to be a star depth trait. And it looks like because he didn't play, he lost at least, that should have been at least a star, but I guess he doesn't play, so he regresses a little bit. So the quarterback the CPU drafted that was a hidden depth trait is now a normal depth trait. And over on defense, Dexter Lawrence is now a superstar, Jadeveon Clowney is now a superstar, Julian Love is now a superstar, and Kayvon Thibodeau is now a superstar X Factor. Adoree Jackson is also now a superstar. And going into contract negotiations, we have 14 players that are ready to negotiate, and we have $102 million in cap. The first person I'm going to attempt to bring back is Dexter Lawrence, who is an 88 overall superstar depth rate, and he has decided he is returning. The next one is Leonard Williams with a 3-year contract, and Leonard Williams will be testing free agency. His re-sign interest was actually really high, so I thought the neutral contract would actually get him. And we're going to offer Adoree Jackson the player-friendly deal, so a 2-year contract, and he is going to be re-signing with us as well. And I think that is going to be it. Leonard Williams, as you can see here, had a high re-sign interest, but just didn't want to come back on that neutral offer, I guess. So we will try to bring him back in free agency. Xavier McKinney, we're going to let walk, mainly because he has no interest in re-signing whatsoever. Graham Gano, Darnay Holmes, and then just a bunch of pretty much backups, like I said last time. And I can finally get rid of Kenny Golladay. If we trade or cut him, it's only a $3.4 million penalty, and we save $18 million. So let's see if I can move him to any team in the league for anything. And we have officially sent Kenny Golladay to the San Francisco 49ers. We also sent 2 4th-round picks in the next 2 years, and we get back a 2nd-round pick in this year's draft. Alright, I'm not even going to lie. I offered 5 contracts, and only one of them is even a scheme fit, but I'm hoping it won't matter too much because I did rebuild the pretty much entire secondary. Instead of trying to bring back Leonard Williams, I am trying to bring in Nick Bosa. Yes, he is not a scheme fit, but he is a 98 overall. I think he is good enough, it won't really matter. Gabe Davis to be our number 2 wide receiver, and then Micah Hyde to be our new free safety, Chidobe Awuzie to be our number 1 corner, and Jonathan Jones to be our number 2. So Adoree Jackson will go to our number 3 corner, and I think we will have a pretty elite secondary if I can land all of these guys. And let's see how many want to sign. And let's see, we get all 4 of them. All right, we did not get, it looks like we did not get Chidobe Awuzie, but we did get Jonathan Jones. And there are 2 more contracts I have thrown out here, being Steven Nelson and Matt Paradis, just because we need a center, and I wanted another corner since we lost out on the other one. And we land Nelson and Matt Paradis, so now we will just jump right to the draft. And it looks like this time the Colts have the 1st-round pick in the draft. I don't think I've ever seen the Colts end up with the number 1 pick in Madden 23. And they will take left end Dennis Brothers out of Texas A&M. We have pick 25, so let's just go ahead and jump there. And this might be an interesting pick, but I think I'm going to take tight end Joe Gentry here in the 1st round out of Notre Dame. He comes in as the 5th fastest tight end in his class, and none of his attributes are really bad. A, pass block, B, short route, A, awareness. So we're going to take tight end Joe Gentry, and he will come in with a normal depth rate, but has 85 speed. As a tight end at 6'5", I feel like that's pretty good. And we already have 2 pretty solid middle linebackers, but I'm going to draft middle linebacker Craig Weatherspoon out of Michigan. He has B block shedding, B zone coverage. He comes in as one of the fastest middle linebackers in the class, and if we lose TJ Edwards after next season, I could possibly trade him or anything like that. I think he could be a good replacement, and Weatherspoon will come in with a hidden depth trait. And this guy has a projection of around 3 to 4, but I'm going to take right guard Greg Anderson out of California here at the end of the 2nd round, because we need a right guard, and I don't think he will be there at the end of the 3rd, and he will come in with a normal depth trait as well. I was really hoping that would be a hidden, obviously. And then here at the end of the third round, once again, just another player that's just kind of best player available. I'm going to take strong safety Byron Payton, or at least he's the best player I think available. He's out of Oklahoma. B to D hit power, B to D man coverage, C tackle. He is, I would say average speed, I guess. It said speed marginal. And then he has C awareness, B block shedding, but A pursuit, and he will come in with a hidden dev trait. I honestly did not expect that. And we got a 74 overall tight end with a normal dev trait in the first round, a 72 overall middle linebacker with a hidden dev trait, a 74 overall right guard, a 65 overall strong safety. All right, well, I was hoping he'd be a little bit better whenever I saw that hidden dev trait. A 66 overall left end, a 67 overall corner, and a 65 overall safety. And here's the starting roster for Season 3 this season. You will notice, though, that Daniel Jones is at the bottom here because he is injured and out for 2 more weeks. Gabe Davis is also injured and he will miss 1 week, so we will not have our new receiver or our quarterback to start the season. And here is the starting defense for Season 3. Obviously, we brought back Dexter Lawrence. We still have Jadeveon Clowney. We add a guy like Nick Bosa. I think that's going to be huge for this team. And then Kayvon Thibodeau is still an X factor. And we got a new safety in Micah Hyde. And we signed a new safety, or a new corner as well, in Jones over here as an 85 overall superstar dev trait. Once again, no one in our secondary is really a scheme fit, but I'm hoping they are good enough to where it won't really matter. But knowing Madden, it probably matters a whole hell of a lot. But either way, let's get Season 3 simulated. And for the 3rd year in a row, we do make it to the playoffs. This time we are 10-7. We finished 2nd in the division, but at least we are back in the playoffs. We come in with the 11th ranked offense and the 13th ranked defense, but at least our pass defense looks a lot better than it did last season. And Daniel Jones comes in with 4,500 yards, 29 touchdowns to 7 interceptions. It looks like Will Hamels, the backup, did not play horrible. He threw 4 touchdowns and only 1 pick in the couple games that he had to start. On the ground, Saquon Barkley did not even break 1,000 yards. He must have got hurt. And then receiving, Calvin Ridley, 95 catches for 8 touchdowns, but Kadarius Toney, 75 receptions for 13 touchdowns. What about defense? How did that go? Lamar Hood led the team in tackles with 126, and in sacks, Nick Bosa got 12.5, so he seems to be a decent signing, and interceptions, Julian Love got 3. And it looks like this time we are back in the playoffs as a 6th seed, so we get to take on the 3 seed Green Bay Packers. But this season we defeat Green Bay 41-31. We lost to him last year. Rodgers has 3 touchdowns. I'm surprised he's still in the league. Usually he has retired by now. Daniel Jones throws for 400 yards and 2 touchdowns. But because we got that win and the 7 seed Dallas Cowboys lost to the Panthers, we get to go to LA and take on the 1 seed Rams. And we pull the upset with what looks like a 4th quarter comeback, taking down the Rams 14-9 in a very low scoring game. Daniel Jones, what did he do? He threw 1 touchdown to 4 interceptions, but we still get the win. I don't care. And it looks like now we get to travel to Minnesota to take on the 5 seed Vikings. So no one that won a division is going to the Super Bowl from the NFC side. And on the AFC side, it is the Jets versus the Colts. But sadly, our season would end in the conference championship in Minnesota, 38-28. But we are getting better every year. In the first season, we lost in the wild card. In the second season, we lost in the divisional. And now in season 3, we've lost in the conference championship. So if we continue this trend, next year we should lose in the Super Bowl. Don't really know how well that's going to go. And it looks like a rookie quarterback for the Vikings has led them to the Super Bowl with 3 touchdowns. Daniel Jones, 2 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. And the Super Bowl would end 28-24 with the Colts getting the win. And Super Bowl MVP is former Giants wide receiver Sterling Shepard. I believe the Colts are led by a 2nd-year quarterback that they drafted a couple years ago. And it looks like Daniel Jones has gone back down to a normal dev trait. He was a star dev trait, I guess only throwing like 29 touchdowns or whatever he threw. Knocked him back down to a normal dev trait. Gabe Davis is still a star dev trait. Calvin Ridley still a superstar. What about over on defense? What did we learn? Well, it looks like Weatherspoon for right now is a star dev trait, and Nick Bosa is now a superstar dev trait. Kayvon Thibodeau is still an X factor. I don't think anything really changed over here. But now we have 17 players ready to negotiate and $107 million in cap space. And obviously, I'm going to attempt to bring back left tackle Andrew Thomas, and we offer that, and that's a good offer. I'm glad we got the deal done. I am too, Andrew. And I think we're going to let everyone else walk just because there's no one really here that I want to bring back. Jadeveon Clowney has played okay for us, but he's still 32 years old. Micah Hyde is now 34. Jonathan Jones is 31. I brought him in on a 1-year contract last year. Azeez Ojulari has been our starting outside linebacker for a minute, but he has no interest in coming back to us. Aaron Robinson is leaving. Matt Paradis is leaving because he's 35, and we will look to obviously replace all of these guys in free agency. And here are the 5 contracts I have thrown out in this free agency. We're trying to bring back Micah Hyde and Jadeveon Clowney, along with bringing in Hassan Reddick, Tyson Campbell, and Quincy Roach. I hope I said his name right. Reddick will obviously start over Roach, but we had no outside linebackers on the roster, and it looks like we land all 5 of them. And we're now here at the 3rd draft of this video, and with the number 1 pick, the Atlanta Falcons are going to take outside linebacker JoJo Northrup out of Miami. We don't pick until pick 30 here. And instead of making a pick here at the end of the 3rd round, we're going to take this trade with Washington, pick up a 1st round pick next year, a 3rd round pick next year, and a 7th round pick next year. And here at the end of the 2nd round, I'm going to take center Esteban Cabrera out of Miami. He comes in with A impact block, A run block. His awareness is A to C, but he is the strongest center in the class. He's one of the more agile centers in the class as well. So we're going to take him, and he will come in with a hidden dev trade. And this corner, Marquise Rogers, is a day 3 projection here at the end of the 3rd round, but he has A catching, C man coverage, A to C press. He is a scheme fit, and he's one of the fastest corners in the class. So we're going to go ahead and take him, and he will come in with a normal dev trade. And in this draft class, we get a 73 overall center and a 72 overall corner. And the CPU takes a 65 overall defensive tackle, a 68 overall running back, and a 68 overall wide receiver. And here's our starting offense for Season 4 of this rebuild. Daniel Jones is still a 76 overall, now back down to a normal dev trait. And it looks like Gabe Davis is still a star dev trait, Calvin Ridley is a superstar, and Kadarius Toney is still a star dev trait, but we do have our new hidden dev trait center. And then over on defense, I don't think too much has changed here, except for we did sign Campbell, who replaces Jonathan Jones. He's actually substantially younger. He was like 25 whenever I signed him. Jones was like 30 plus, and they had similar ratings, so I'm kind of glad we got him at a he was much cheaper, and 2, he's much younger. In Season 1, we lost in the wild card. In Season 2, we lost in the divisional. Season 3, we lost in the conference championship. In Season 4, can we get to the Super Bowl? Let's simulate Season 4 and figure that out. Well, this is a pretty good start here. We finished 12-5, and it looks like we get the bye week, so we're going to come in as the 1 seed on the NFC side. And Daniel Jones just decided to have an MVP level year. 5,100 yards, 46 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. On the ground, Saquon Barkley ran for almost 1,400 yards and 15 touchdowns. And receiving, Gabe Davis 122 catches, 1,500 yards and 10 touchdowns. Calvin Ridley caught 7 touchdowns. Joe Gentry, our 2nd-year tight end, caught 8. Kadarius Toney caught 9. Alright, so our offense finally woke up this year. And it looks like TJ Edwards led the team in tackles with 116. In sacks, Nick Bosa got 17, Kayvon Thibodeau got 10, and interceptions, Marquise Rogers, the rookie that I took with like a normal dev trait, comes up with 4. And in our first playoff game, we will be taking on the 6th seed Eagles. I am an Eagles fan in real life, so this is a little weird to be rooting for the Giants in this game. And I forgot to even look to see what our team rankings were. We have the number 2 offense in points per game, the number 3 passing offense, and the number 6 defense in points per game. But of course, the first season that we finally win the division, we get bounced in our first playoff game 35-14. This wasn't even close. Daniel Jones comes in and throws 4 interceptions as Jalen Hurts throws 3 touchdowns. And in a rematch from a few years ago in this Super Bowl, because this was the Super Bowl back in 2023, but this time the Bengals get the win 30-24 for their franchise's first Super Bowl win. And even with that insane season, Daniel Jones will remain a normal dev trait. And it looks like Calvin Ridley also lost his superstar dev trait. He is down to a star along with Gabe Davis and Kadarius Toney still. And on defense, Nick Bosa is now an X factor, so that's pretty cool to see. But Jadeveon Clowney drops down to a normal dev trait, and it looks like we do not have a free safety, so it looks like Micah Hyde is actually retired. But this will be our final offseason of the video because we only have 1 full season left to simulate. In terms of overall, Daniel Jones is not great. He's up to a 76 or a 77. He's still a normal dev trait, but he's coming off a tremendous season. And the first contract we're going to throw out is to Adoree Jackson, a 2-year deal, and he is coming back. I'm just going to offer TJ Edwards the neutral contract. If he doesn't take it, that's fine, because we still have Craig Weatherspoon, who was a hidden dev trait at one point, but TJ Edwards will be coming back. And then the only other player I'm going to attempt to bring back, I will offer him a player-friendly deal because his re-sign interest is actually pretty low. We're going to try to bring back Kadarius Toney, and he will be returning as well. And everyone else here will be leaving, so we will have $60 million to play with in our final free agency. And there were only 2 contracts I am throwing out here, trying to get tight end George Kittle and free safety Kyle Hamilton. Hamilton has a medium interest in us. Kittle has some high interest, but there are some big offers there. So let's advance past this. And did they both sign? We got Kyle Hamilton. We do not land George Kittle. And we're now here at the final draft of this video. So let's see who the Broncos are going to take with the number 1 pick. They are going to take left end Lecarius Cox out of Kansas State. And we have pick 19 in this draft. And I don't think this is going to be popular at all, but I'm about to take another tight end. Enrique Walls out of LSU has a catch in traffic, a run block. He is the fastest tight end in the class, running a 4.54 at the pro day. He has a medium route, like I said, a catch in traffic, a run block. We're going to take Enrique Walls, and he will have a normal depth trait because apparently, I don't know, can you draft like superstar, like can you draft a Kyle Pitts like tight end in this game? Do they exist? And here at the end of the first round, I'm just attempting to take the best players on the board. We have almost every position kind of filled. But we're going to take defensive back Sammy Newton out of Florida, and he will come in with a normal depth trait, but has 93 speed. And now here at the end of the second round, we're going to take our backup center, who is going to be Henry Stafford out of Oregon State, and he will come in with a hidden depth trait. And this is just once again, I think, the best player left on the board. We're going to take quarterback Tim McMillan. We are still going to be starting Daniel Jones, unless this dude comes in as like an 80 overall or something. But McMillan will come in with a normal depth trait. He does have 96 throw power though, so he has a cannon. And then here at the end of the third round, we're going to take left end Andrew Pierce out of LSU, and he will also come in with a normal depth trait. And our draft class is a 74 overall tight end that I took with the 19th pick in the draft. That kind of sucks. A 76 overall corner that looks pretty solid. A 73 overall center. A 68 overall quarterback. A 67 overall left end. A 67 overall right end. A 67 overall free safety. A 65 left guard. A 67 wide receiver. And then a 62 left end. And we're going to attempt to go all in on this season, so I'm trading for Kenny Moore from the Indianapolis Colts. He is a scheme fit corner, and he will be our number 1 corner. And I've made a trade with the Philadelphia Eagles to get an older Dallas Goedert, who was an 86 overall scheme fit tight end, since both the tight ends I wanted to take in the first round really weren't what I expected. Okay, Daniel Jones, you have 1 season remaining to win a Super Bowl now. You have a 92 overall Gabe Davis. You have an 86 overall Kadarius Toney, an 86 overall Calvin Ridley, an 88 overall tight end, a pretty solid O-line, a 95 overall Saquon Barkley, and then your defense has 3 superstar X factors: Nick Bosa, Kayvon Thibodeau, and Kyle Hamilton. An 88 overall corner who is finally a scheme fit. We finally have a couple scheme fits in our secondary, which is nice. And then our number 2 corner is Adoree Jackson, who's an 85, and Julian Love is an 84 superstar depth trait. We should have a pretty solid team this year, and I think this is probably the best team we have had. But I have thought that before, and then EA decided, no, this team's awful, you're not even going to make the playoffs. So let's figure out if in Season 5 EA wants to be on our side this time. Alright, so far EA is definitely on our side. We go 15-2 with the number 1 offense in the league, the number 1 passing offense, and the number 2 defense in points per game. And Daniel Jones with 5,500 yards, 50 touchdowns, and 14 interceptions. The 14 picks is pretty high, but the 5,500 yards and 50 touchdowns are both career highs even through this video. Saquon Barkley, 1,300 yards and 18 touchdowns on the ground. And receiving, we had 4 people go over 1,000 yards. Gabe Davis got 1,405 touchdowns. Kadarius Toney, 98 for 1,200 yards and 13 touchdowns. Calvin Ridley got 16 touchdowns, and Dallas Goedert got 12. It really kind of hurts to see him with a Giants logo behind him as an Eagles fan, like I said earlier, but I'm willing to deal with that now if I can successfully win a Super Bowl with Daniel Jones in Madden 23. And then on defense, TJ Edwards led the team in tackles. In sacks, that is Nick Bosa with 18.5, Kayvon Thibodeau with 15.5, and interceptions, Kenny Moore got 6, TJ Edwards got 5, and Craig Weatherspoon got 2. And in the first round of the playoffs, it looks like Dallas is the lowest remaining seed on the NFC side, so we will get to take on the 12-5 Dallas Cowboys as we try to win a Super Bowl here in our final season of this rebuild. And sadly, that is where it will end, 31-21 for the second year in a row in the divisional round after getting the bye week. And how did Daniel Jones play? 2 touchdowns to only 1 interception. Dak did not even throw a touchdown, but obviously it was enough for the Cowboys to get the win and end this rebuild. So we will just figure out who won the Super Bowl and wrap it up from there. And the final Super Bowl in this video will go to the Kansas City Chiefs, defeating Dallas 31-27. Daniel Jones actually wins NFL MVP though, and Brian Daboll wins Coach of the Year. And even after that insane season Daniel Jones just had, he goes 15-2, wins the MVP, throws 50 touchdowns, 5,500 yards. He stays as a normal depth trait. But I still feel like I built a really good team here. Yes, overall wise, Daniel Jones never really amounted to much, but in stats, he definitely was one of the top quarterbacks in the league for the last couple years. And then we just went 15-2, but obviously get bounced in the divisional round of the playoffs. So this is considered a failure because we did not win a Super Bowl, but hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, and I will talk to you guys next time.